All right, here we go, man. Salute to Knicks Nation on this Monday evening. Another edition of Knicks Weekly, episode 147. This is the show where we recap the good, the bad, and the ugly as it relates to the New York Knicks. And this past week, the Knicks would go 2-1, including a beatdown by the hands of the Detroit Pistons, but the Knicks would bounce back with good wins over the Houston Rockets and the Chicago Bulls. We are going to get into the big bodegas week in Karl-Anthony Towns, the much maligned Karl-Anthony Towns, and controversial Landry Shamet on the rise, and we will preview what lies ahead for the New York Knicks. Joining me on today's show, man, friend of the program. You can catch him on his channel, one of the best gaming channels around. He's our guy, 8RGT85 in the building, man. Joining us again, man. Hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. And shout out to everybody that is weathering the blizzard of 2026, man. Salute. Oh, man, what's good, my guy? How you feeling, man?
Man, it's been, the blizzard came out of nowhere.
Came out of nowhere, man. I mean, we were supposed to do this at 12:30, and then, at 12:30, I was trying to, figure out the meaning of life, because I'm like, damn, do I want to go outside? Do I not want to go outside? I decided to strap up the boots and get outside. I went out around, say, 2:30, did, 3 trips, and then I wrapped up by, 6:45, bro. I was out there, man. Yeah,
it's ridiculous, yeah. and it almost came out of nowhere. You had a day or two notice, because initially it was 3 to 5 inches. Okay, whatever. Yeah. Now they're bomb cyclone. It's y'all just making up words.
Yeah.
What is that bomb cyclone? Do I need to go into my shelter or something?
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
It was nuts, man. But yo, man, I was out there with the shovel, man. Everybody was like, yo, you got to go get the snow blower and all that. Yo, I'm manual. I'm old school. You know what I'm saying? I'm out there just with the shovel. I threw the MJ on, threw the Mike Jacks on, threw a little Hendrix on. I just got to work, bro. It was nothing for me, man. I just got to work, man. Just one at a time, one scoop at a time until I was done. You know what I'm saying?
But how are you feeling now?
Well, the aftershocks usually come in tomorrow. So, tomorrow is where, I'll get, the ace bandages, you know what I'm saying, and all of that. So by tomorrow, when I need a body cast, I'll let you know by post game tomorrow, man.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. 2-1 in the week. Got washed again by the Pistons, man. Where were you after that game? Were you on the side of doom and gloom, or were you on the side of, hey, tomorrow's another day? How'd you react to that one?
I mean, initially, there's definitely that doom and gloom. It's not again, because you don't want to make comparisons to last year too much, but you kind of got to look at it from the Boston perspective. Last year, Boston destroyed us during the regular season. Come playoffs, we handled business. But, to me, I think it's a lot of it is just it's a different team, even though most of the core pieces are exactly the same. The way that Mike Brown uses the team is he's very experimental, even in instances and particularly games where we don't want to see that as a fan, because you want to win every game. But my thought is maybe in the long run it'll help out, because then you'll kind of be able to gauge, okay, well, what works against this specific team? Because the overall goal isn't necessarily we want 65 regular season wins. No, the goal is, you want to chip. And to try different things in those games to see what they work or not, I hope is the idea. And it's not just, reckless negligence. And I tend to give him a benefit of the doubt with that, because of, playoff success as an assistant coach and stuff like that. But, you never like to lose, especially when it's to someone like the Pistons or Boston. So, yeah, definitely upset by it, but tomorrow is another day, and you got to see the bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, look, naturally, like all fans, I was tight. If you watch post game, a lot of people watch the post game that night. I was pissed off. We didn't get into the intro, no theatrics, no monologue. I just got right into it. But look, number one, you got to tip your cap to Cade Cunningham. That was one of the out of body experiences, performances that any player has really put on the Knicks in quite some time. I mean, there was nobody out there that was going to stop him that night. first game out of the break. Don't want to make too many excuses for the team, but, Knicks shot like 20% from three. Detroit once again was on fire from three. Is that, typical for both teams? No. I think on good nights, the Knicks will be able to knock down their threes, and I'm not so sure if Detroit can maintain that. That's going to be the question that they'll have to answer, especially when they get into the playoffs. Will that three-point shooting carry forward into the playoffs, which I'm not so sure, especially when things grind down, slow down a little bit in the half court. So there were certainly some things to be concerned about, especially when, you put an OG on Cade, and Cade is just absolutely shredding him, and shredded him twice already this season. But you have to hope that, as you said, with Mike Brown, with the experimenting, hopefully he didn't show all of his cards. You hope that if these two teams meet in the playoffs, that he will have some tricks up his sleeve to slow Cade down, and the inexperience of Detroit will kick in and force the other guys, the supporting cast, to beat them. And then, like I said, on the flip side, with Towns, finished the week a lot better, but again, in that Detroit game, you didn't have Duren, you didn't have Stewart, so it was a little disappointing in terms of, he had his 21 and 11, but there was a lot left out there in terms of getting after it and really dominating that matchup against Paul Reed.
Yeah, there was a lot of meat left on the bone. I mean, Paul Reed, no disrespect to Paul Reed, but Paul Reed is Paul Reed, he's not a lockdown guy. He's someone that Cat and Cat is interesting because there are matchups that it seems like he loves them. Like Alex Sarr. I don't know what it is about Alex Sarr. He loves playing against. He always just destroys them, and it's like I tend to think that Alex Sarr is overall a better player than Paul Reed is. So, but obviously I'm sure we'll get into it with the Cat and the conversation that was had with him and Shaq and stuff like that. But it does come down to a matter of getting him involved early. There's a lot of intricate pieces to the puzzle, and trying to figure them all out is it takes time. And I know, we had so many years of Tibbs, people knew what to expect, people knew what to do. But when you bring in a new coach, things are going to be a bit different. And, I would rather experiment now than have to experiment in the first round, so.
Yeah, and I'm with you, and that's why I was kind of like, after the win over the Rockets, and hey, they had to go get that. They were up by 13, then they found themselves down by 18, a wild swing, but they finally woke up in that fourth quarter. Big thanks to Karl-Anthony Towns, and then Jalen woke up and he closed the door. You had some really stellar play and defensive grittiness from Jose Alvarado, so I thought that was a good win at the Garden, but especially when they went down 18, I'm at the watch party and everybody, the doom and gloom is back. Like, oh, not again. This is happening. And, I was kind of surprised by that because, like you said, it is a new coach. It is a new situation, a new system. Clearly, they're not all on the same page as yet. We've heard early reports this season that the players weren't buying in, especially Cat in the beginning. Most notably, he wasn't bought in. So we give it time. We just don't know how this thing is going to end until it is truly over. But yet and still, they're still right there in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, Detroit, the number one seed, might not be within reach, but number two definitely is. You got a big game against the Cavaliers on Tuesday, one game up on the Cavs. You want to make sure that you handle business there. And things are starting to come together, man. And starting with Karl-Anthony Towns. He's, as the fans voted, the player of the week. Had a stellar game against the Rockets, and then in the Knicks win against the Bulls on Sunday night. 11 points in that fourth quarter when the Bulls took the lead in that fourth quarter. So look, as you said, especially with Towns, and me and Alex talked about this yesterday on postgame. I think that the path should be going to him early, get him established early, get his confidence up, and you saw that over the last two games. He's playing great.
It is a drastic difference in his, not even just, obviously shooting efficiency. The three ball has been way smoother. He's hitting it at the past, couple of games, or the past two games in the wins. The efficiency is through the roof, but there seems to be a little bit more aggressiveness, like that one play where he missed the three and got his own rebound and then he dunked it home. It's like, where's that guy?
Yeah,
that's the guy that we want to see every single night. That's the guy that we want to see out there. And I think I'm sure it's a situation where it's like, Cap has to get his, and so you gotta figure out, how is Cat going to play in with Brunson,
Mm-hmm.
and in a game by game situation, because there's obviously games where Brunson is going to be more of a focal point than Cat, but I do think that there should be at least some games and some attempts made to have Cat maybe be the focal point over JB a little bit more, especially on the offensive side, because that's why Cat is out there. You're not getting 5 blocks, a couple steals, this, that, and the other from him. He's out there for his offense. So if he's not doing much offensively and he's not getting into the flow, and his teammates aren't trying to get him the ball in ideal situations, it can be very frustrating. But it seems like maybe there's a little bit more of a conscious effort to get him involved in the offense, and maybe a little bit more on his shoulders of taking the initiative as well.
Yeah, which is what Mike Brown said before that game against the Rockets. He's saying, hey, look, this is a read and react system, so he needs to be reading the defenses better and being more aggressive in finding his spots. So who's right? I think there's a lot of responsibility. It's on Cat, it's on Brown, and it's on Brunson. And as we've seen in these games, Brunson is feeding him. He's being more aggressive, and Brown is calling his numbers. So you're kind of seeing all three of those parties get involved and getting Karl-Anthony Towns into his spots. And then I also think Alvarado is kind of settling in a little bit with that second unit and running it through Towns, making more of a concerted effort to get him fed and making sure that he's eating. So I like how Jose has been settling in. Obviously, the 5 steals against the Rockets, the 2 big ones in the fourth quarter, was off the charts, man. What's been your impressions of Jose so far, man?
Oh, I was thrilled. I was thrilled when we got him, because I've always been a fan of him and just his defense and his intensity. And he is, fit like a glove, I feel like. And I think he's a little bit of a better point guard as far as passing is concerned than people give him credit for. Like that alley-oop he had to Huck last night.
Dude, that got him on the Huck. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was like, okay, that's good vision. And he's one of those players that you hate to play against, but when he's on your team, it's like, all right, I love this guy. He's willing to do the dirty work. Some nights he'll give you offensive explosions, sometimes not so much, but at least he has, such a defensive presence and an ability to guard multiple positions as well if he gets, hit on a screen or something like that, to where it's valuable to keep him out there. Like, I love Kolek. I think Kolek has a very high ceiling potentially as a more traditional pure point guard sort of thing. But right now he doesn't have that thing where it's like, okay, well, if he's turning the ball over and the offense isn't great, you're not necessarily getting much on defense from him. So It's, more of a work in progress, whereas Alvarado is definitely a lot more plug and play. And I think he's been fitting in seamlessly. And I think, as, over the next few games, as he gets more and more comfortable, I'm very interested to see, longer spurts of like him and Mitch out there at the same time. And, how Brown, like, who will he use alongside of those two as far as both figuring out the offense and the defense with that rotation? Because that, I think, it could be very, very exciting.
Yeah, the Grand Theft Alvarado, man, definitely filling in. Rockets game, he had a couple of clutch threes as well. Attacked the basket. He's got a fearlessness about him that you just have to love, and especially being back home in New York, he's fitted in quite nicely. And look, we everybody wants to see Tyler maintain those minutes, but it'll all fall into place, man. Whether it's through injury, through lack of productivity, like those guys will find their way into the lineup. But look, man, this is who you want to go with. And Mike Brown giving credit to Rick Brunson, saying that it was his suggestion to close with Alvarado in that fourth quarter. So you not only close with Alvarado, you also close with Landry Shamet in that game, and he sat Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart. So kind of goes to what you were saying in terms of Mike Brown, like willing to experiment and take chances here, take big risks with the new coach with a new team.
No, 100%. And it kind of harkens back to something that we've, as Knicks fans, have heard, watching post-game shows and press conferences and interviews. The game tells you what to do.
The game tells you what to do.
but now it's actually being implemented in like a reasonable way. It's not just a strict hockey rotation where it's like, oh, it's time for you to come out. It's time for you. But I have, I'm shooting great. I'm playing great defense. No. We got to bring this person in. Yeah. It's definitely more free flowing in late game situations. And, it really boils down to matchups and stuff like that. And when you take a chance and do something a little bit different, you ride the hot hand, you see who's been playing well for you. I hope collectively as a team, and I think most of our players understand it. You're here to win. Going back to the Cat and the Shaq thing. Cat says, "Oh, it doesn't matter to me. We just want to win. We want to win." Mm-hmm. And I think that is a good mentality to have overall. Maybe you don't say it to someone like Shaq, who's always going to bust your butt, on national TV all the time. You can lie to him a little bit, but no, I love it. I've always enjoyed Landry Shamet. He's he's a hard player to kind of like make a comparison to like other people too, because he has an interesting build. I think his defense is a little bit underrated. Like he's actually a pretty solid defender, but he's just been magic, for us as a team.
Yeah, Shamet's been great, man. 16 points in that win over the Bulls, and a guy who Mike Brown, once again, is not afraid to close with. And imagine this is a guy who they lost to a shoulder injury early in the season, and also lost to a shoulder injury almost all of last season. So give credit to him, man. His resiliency has been on point. His aggressiveness, despite the fact that he injured his shoulder, has been very impressive. And then, he's just knocking down threes, and he's very confident in this offense, man. Like, he's not afraid. He does not defer. That's one thing with Shamet. Like, when he's going for it.
Oh yeah, and it's kind of weird because I almost feel like it's kind of like you remember that movie Rookie of the Year where the kid messes up his arm and now he's like a MLB thrower? It's almost like he gets better when my shoulder got hurt. Oh, now I can hit even. I'm hitting shots at a higher clip now. It's like, what? Okay, cool. Yeah. But yeah, he's a very fun player, and big thank you to Malcolm Brogdon for retiring and making it so that Landry Shamet did get that spot, because I think it would have been a different season if Brogdon stuck around and because Brogdon was supposed to get that spot and Landry was probably going to get cut, but thankfully he decided to retire, and we got to go good old Shammy.
Yeah, for sure. I'm like that. I did a my SNY recording prior to this show. I did the SNY segment, and I talked about the fact that this was a guy who we were thinking that was competing for one of the final two roster spots into training camp. Now, according to James Edwards' trilogy of The Athletic, he said, according to Mike Brown, he wasn't really part of that competition. It was really between Brogdon and Garrison Matthews. Then Brogdon goes ahead and retires, and things kind of just fall into place. But if you think about Shamet, this is his sixth team. He's shooting like 41% from three. He starts his career off in Philadelphia. Still strong from three, but then Philadelphia goes in and they trade for Tobias Harris. So Shamet becomes kind of a casualty in a trade. Then he's with the Clippers. Right? He gets traded again. Then he goes to Brooklyn. He's with the whole KD Kyrie situation. And then he's gone again. Goes to the Phoenix Suns. And it's just like all this time, like he's a guy who's capable of filling a role, but I think the business just got the best of him, man. And he goes to Washington, he gets waived. Yeah. He goes to the Wizards and gets waived. He just can't make it up, man.
It makes you think, though, like how many other players are out there that may be in a very similar situation like him that are just, really untapped potential. Like, I think there's, a few different games you could point to this season. And it's like, if Shamet isn't hitting threes for us, we're not winning these games.
Yeah.
Like these are games he is helping significantly contribute to us winning. And it's crazy to think about.
Yeah. And when just doing some research on him, the researchers revealed that like when he was with the Clippers, the Nets and the Suns, like a lot of times he's traded for salary cap exercises. He becomes a cap hit. And so this is still a guy, he's 28 years old, still in his prime. He might not even peaked yet. And we talked about Mikal Bridges and his, inconsistency. Mikal started the year off very hot for the Knicks. Sometimes fans like to bury him all the way. Nah, I think Mikal, he did his thing, especially starting the season, and he will make a name for himself before this is all said and done. I have a lot of confidence in him. But, you think about the fact that you have the optionality now to go to Shamet, sit Bridges, but also think about the Deuce injury. Deuce is gone. You don't know when he's going to come back. It's supposed to be at the end of the season, but you don't know if Deuce is going to regain form. He left the team shooting like 42, 45% from three. So this Shamet revelation, man, knock on wood, he can stay healthy because the way he's running through these screens, you never know with that shoulder. But, I mean, that just speaks to the depth that these guys have in the extended rotation.
Yeah, because, if we didn't have him, what are you going to do? We gonna go Clarkson. Like, remember him? Remember Jordan Clarkson, who used to be like, the second person off the bench, and now all of a sudden you forget he's on the team. So yeah, I mean, Landry earned his minutes. He earned his position. He earned his role on this team. And I hope that he could. Obviously, you got the business aspect of things, but after the season is said and done, I hope that there is a home for him here.
Yeah, no question about it. CP the Fanchise, RGT85 on this Knicks Weekly episode 147. I want to shout out one of our sponsors of today's show, and that is Mando Whole Body Deodorant. Head over to shopmando.com and use our code KFTV for 20% off plus free shipping. And hey, there's a lot to love about Mando. Like I said, 72 hours of odor control, no baking soda, reduces chafing, doctor developed. And you don't have to worry about, that aluminum and all those things that's kind of dangerous for your body to intake. And some cool scents, man, from Cloverwood, Cedar Grove, Pro Sport. And one of the good things about Mando is that they have the deodorant in different forms. So if you need the solid form, if you need the spray, if some of you guys like the spray deodorant, some of you guys like the cream deodorant, and you could use it in different parts of the body, man. Hey, no testimonials, but if you have some of those trouble areas, not just your underarms, that's where Mando comes into play. So no reason to be caught lacking out there. Like I said, use our code KFTV for 20% off free shipping at shopmando, MANDO.com. Shout out to guys at shopmando.com. All right, let's see what's going on here. I'm watching Spurs and Detroit. Spurs are going to be coming to town this Sunday. Knicks are going to be taking on the Spurs. Spurs clinging to a 10-point lead. They've been pretty impressive here on the road against Detroit. Two of the best teams in the league right now. Spurs making a case right now, man. 105-95. You watching it on your end?
I got the ticker up for it. Yeah. I mean, the Spurs, they're a very dangerous team. A very dangerous team. Yeah. Of course, glad that we beat them in the cup, and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. It just seems like every week they get a little bit tighter, and they it's going to make very interesting playoffs. Yeah, very interesting playoffs in the West.
Big time. I think they're trailing the Thunder, I believe, by like 2.5 games. Let me just take a look at this. Salute to everybody in the chat. See the Rhyme Animal Chuck D in the building. Salute to Chuck. Hope everybody's doing well out there in the snow. All right, let me pull up the standings here real quick and take a look at where things are. So we have, obviously the Knicks are in third right now, 6.5 back of the Pistons, 1 full game back of the Celtics. And, I talked about the fact that that April 9th game between the Knicks and the Celtics could decide things in terms of the 2 and 3 seeds. So it's very important for the Knicks to kind of keep track here and shoot for that second seed. A lot of people there was a big discussion last night in terms of them being on the second night of a back-to-back, and Mike Brown sticking to that same rotation, not really going into the deeper bench like the Koleks and the Clarksons and the Diawaras. Sticking with that same rotation that he went with in the night before. And the thought here is, hey, man, this is the dog fight right now. They got to be locked in and try and be winning a lot of these games, man. What do you think about that?
I mean, you want the best position possible. You don't want to play with your food too much here. If you're capable of winning the game, you play basketball for a living. There's going to be nights where you're going to be a little bit tired and stuff like that, but you gotta power through it. That's why you're in the NBA. You're the best of the best, the elite, if you will. So no, I'm cool with going with what works. As long as, what works is getting you the W, that's fine. There's going to be tired legs and stuff like that. If those tired legs start making a negative impact down the stretch of a game, then you probably should have done something different, but hindsight is 2020 in that situation. But no, I'm completely fine with it as long as it gets the win, and like you can't worry about stuff like that. It's about winning as a team, not individualism. And hopefully I think most of the players buy into that as well, because at the end of the day, the goal is not we want to be number 1 seed overall. Like, yeah, that's cool. The goal is a championship, though.
We're a championship.
The team is built for the playoffs, allegedly. We'll find out in a couple of weeks.
Now, they will be in Cleveland on Tuesday, 1 game up on the Cavs. Now, the good thing is that they already took care of the season series, did the Knicks. So they won the 2 home games against the Cavs, including that Christmas Day thriller. But Cavs have retooled. They ship off Garland out west. They bring in James Harden. They're 5-1 since the Harden trade. They got Washington OKC last night on Sunday night. Are you impressed so far with the retooled Cavs, man? Are you impressed with the Harden-Mitchell connection?
I mean, always from an offensive standpoint, it was going to be a potent duo. And when you look at the first, couple of games that they played, they weren't exactly, I mean, like the Kings game kind of came down to the wire and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, I think there are benefits to the Harden and Donovan Mitchell thing, but there's also a big sort of red flag. And I think that red flag got a little bit exposed, because if you look at the score of the OKC Cleveland game, it definitely looked a little bit. And I mean, at one point the Cavs were down like 23 in the first quarter, and they came back, tied it up, took the lead, whatever, and then OKC ended up winning. But that's an OKC team that did not have Jalen Williams and did not have Gilgeous-Alexander. So it's kind of like, I feel like this offensive duo should have been able to push them forward, but you come into that problem where Harden's not playing defense, and Mitchell's not known for his defense. So now you have a very soft backcourt to where if they're not scoring for you, if Harden's having an off night or something like that, it's what are you gonna do? He's not gonna do much for you defensively. So I don't know. I think it the timing of it, giving up on Garland and stuff like that, like I get it, I guess. Maybe they're in a win now sort of mentality, but I don't know. I don't fully buy into them being substantially better as a team overall with Harden. And I could be wrong on that. Maybe they'll, fire off 10 wins in a row and I'll look like an idiot. But I don't know. Just the eye test right now, I'm not 100% sold on it, especially come playoff time.
Yeah. That's my thing. They got to show it to me come playoff time. I'm not really a believer just yet. Now, they got a Keon Ellis, they got a Schroeder in there. Those guys might be able to scrap it up, but I'm not so sure I'm believing in them. And I thought the Garland for Harden swap was kind of like that last ditch effort to remain in that championship contender window. But I think they still have some issues, especially with the Mobley situation. Like, can he emerge as a real dominant threat? Like you see how Wemby right now dominating, in a two-way sense. I think that's what I would have to see to be convinced that the Cavs can really be that team. I just haven't seen it yet out of Evan Mobley. But they will be in Cleveland on Tuesday. Then they go to Milwaukee on Friday. Hopefully we don't have to hear any more of the Giannis talk, but I mean, where are you on that real quick, man? Like, are you on a thing where it's like, if they don't win the chip this year, get to the chip this year, are you ready to break this thing up for Giannis? What do you think, man?
I'm glad nothing major happened at the trade deadline this year, because you definitely need to let this play out and see where it goes. I think for me personally, I think it just depends on, say the team is healthy, there's no crazy injury or something. How far did you get? Where did you go? How did you match up with these teams? And then you could possibly address it. Like, would Giannis be great to have? Yes, but at what cost? If you have to gut every single thing from the team that gives the team its identity, is it really worth it? I think I think the era of the 2 or 3 man super team, that's a product that we all grew up watching. I don't think that that's necessarily the thing anymore. It's more about collectivism and taking the strengths of individuals and putting them in situations, or having an alien like Wemby is. But would it be something worth exploring if the price was right? Sure, but you have to look at the bigger picture overall. I wouldn't just want to focus strictly on him. I want to look at everyone in free agency, or everyone who might be, on the trade block or something. Maybe a team is going in a different direction, this, that, or the other. I'd love to have him, but just the cost is the concerning thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've been saying it all year, man. It's not just about him. It's about what you have if you go get him. What do you have left? Because this is the depth. You're looking at 2 teams right now, the Spurs and the Detroit Pistons, and hey, even the Thunder. Like those 3 teams are building through the draft. They are building depth, right? And they're tacking on guys at the back end of the roster that are just like these little like pickups, the little herders of the world, right? Like the Harrison Barneses, our guy Luke Cornett's, right? They're tacking on those guys on the margins, but a lot of their pieces are through the draft. The Knicks don't have that luxury right now. They have to trade for guys now. So it's like to add on 1 big top talent and you got to subtract 3. They got to see if that's truly worth it. And so, like I said, there's an asterisk on a potential Giannis type of acquisition. So then they will see the Spurs on Sunday. Spurs coming to town. They're 3 back of OKC right now, 40-16. And look, the Spurs got their revenge after that NBA Cup loss. The Justin Champagnie game lit up the Knicks, but man, there's a lot to be impressed with this team, especially, Castle is killing right now. Castle is turning up the juice on him. Wemby's Wemby. They're looking like a dangerous team right now. From the West, they're going to be a threat, and they're going to come into the Garden. Wemby's going to want to light it up. He saw Cade light him up at the Garden for 40. Wemby's going to want to put on a show in the Garden, man. You know that, man.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, both the Cleveland game and the Spurs game are going to help put things into perspective, as far as where we're at, what needs to potentially be done, and, what can we do going forward? Because you have to imagine, you could see the Cavs in the second round. You have to imagine if you get to the finals, it's a darn good chance that you're going to see the Spurs in the finals. So we don't want to repeat of Spurs and Knicks in the finals, where it doesn't go our way. So.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that 100%. So when we're looking forward to that, I might try to pull up to the Garden for that. I think I got to go to the Garden for that, man.
Hopefully there's no more snow.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Hopefully I can take myself out of the snow completely and get to the Garden for that. CB the Fanchise, RGT 85 in the building. Let me shout out some of the super chats. First off, shout out to our Fanchise channel members in here, and salute to the replay gang, of course. Okay. Shout out to William Burton, man. $20 super chat. Says, CP, remember last year we were ready to put Shamet in the trunk? You got words for your next shirt. The game will tell you what to do. Yeah, we should. That would be some good merch right there. Yeah, that would definitely be some good merch. Yeah, Shamet has come back, man. He's come back from being buried. Tibbs didn't know how to use him. Went to him a little bit too late. But Mike Brown is definitely going to him. Shout out to Mike Rex, 73, $5 super chat. Says the coaching staff, Cap and Towns, got to use their collective basketball IQ to ensure we can impose our will to win. It's critical that Towns is engaged. Like I said, no cat, no rings. So, like what I see these past 2 games, this is going to be a big week. Go ahead and dominate Evan Mobley on Tuesday against the Cavaliers, right? Dominate. Hey, you know what? The Bucks don't have Giannis, but they're still playing with some pride. Go out there and dominate them. Put them in the rearview mirror and don't give them any hope. And then when you see Wemby, take him out to the outside, man. Shoot that 3 over him, over the 8-foot wingspan. Make a statement. Continue to make a statement. So we'll see what the Big Bodega has in store. Did you think Shaq crossed the line in that interview? There's a lot of controversy. Some Knicks fans saying he shouldn't have said it. What did you think?
It's TV. It's TV. They want the buzz. They want that. Shaq knew what he was doing. He knows he's not a buffoon. He knows how to push people's buttons. Mm-hmm. He knows that there are narratives out there. for him on certain players and stuff like that. I think Cat handled it well. You know, he didn't bite. He didn't give. I think really what you know, obviously Shaq and probably the network wanted was that sound bite. You know, was that sort of clap back. But it's like, okay, you know, respect. But you know, we're here to win and do things our way. Now, since that, you know, interaction, we've seen quite an aggressive individual.
Woke him up.
You know, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But no, I mean, you know, it would have crossed the line if it would gotten to like personal stuff, but you know, it's just basketball at the end of the day. It's just talking and giving an opinion. And, you know, Shaq is Shaq. He's been around forever. And, you know, he's always done things like that. He's always had his players that he, you know, decides to pick on or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. I didn't think it was anything wrong with what he said. I mean, it's Shaq. He's got 4 rings, been to 6 NBA Finals. He's a legend, Hall of Famer, one of the greatest to ever do it. You want to put him in the top 10? I think he's definitely top 10. So I mean, this isn't you know, Eddie House talking here. Like, you know what I mean? This isn't Brian Scalabrine talking here. Like, this is Shaquille O'Neal. Like, come on, man. So if there's anybody that Karl-Anthony Towns should be listening to, it is him. But it's because whether it's the legends, the current players, the fans, the analysts, people see, like you said, there's more on the bone there with Karl-Anthony Towns. And if he can find that, if he can channel that, look, I think the Knicks have as good a chance as anybody to win the championship. I really do. And so we'll see what the Big Bodega does for the rest of this season and beyond. Shout out to Randy Johnson in the chat. Archie T says, ask him what new games are coming out. What are you playing right now? What games are you playing right now, man?
Oh, I'm getting ready for Resident Evil 9. Resident Evil 9 comes out this week. And
wow.
It's looking really good.
Is it really? Is this next gen? This is for next gen and everything, right?
Yeah, PS5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and PC. No PS4 versions or anything like that. But yeah, it's looking really good. That drops on Friday, so
wow.
That'll be my weekend coming up for sure.
Resident Evil. What's the big delay? You know, everybody makes the joke. Obviously, we got Jose Alvarado. Now the joke is we got GTA 5 before GTA 6. What's the big delay with GTA 6? I haven't really been keeping up. What's going on with that?
It's more so just, I think, the size and the scope of the game. You know, I think they are going to make a game that is unlike anything that has been seen in terms of really just the interactivity. Because that's kind of one thing that gaming has, you know, we get these better graphics and stuff like that, but the interactivity with like environments and things that you could do within the games, it definitely feels like almost like a step back. Like it feels a little bit more sterile because now you have more advanced physics and stuff like that. But this game is going to be such a huge game that, you know, it takes time, supposedly. You know, it's still on track. I don't know, but you know, it's going to be a day when that finally comes out. Like it's going to be like one of those events that I think people will talk about for quite a while.
Wow, that's crazy. Is E3 still a thing? You know, when I was a kid, E3 was like the big gaming conference that I used to like dream about going to in like Las Vegas and seeing all the game, playing all the new joints. Is E3 done? What happened to E3, man?
So E3 ran into money problems, and then they were supposed to come back, and it fell through. So now somebody named Jeff Keighley, who does like the Game Awards and stuff like that, I'm sure you've probably seen him before. He now has like a Summer Games Fest thing, but now there's kind of like this weird thing where it's like everything just kind of goes through this one guy, and it's like, well, why is he like the emperor of video games or something like that? But there are a lot of people, myself included, that miss E3 because everything was nice and structured. You know, you knew when a company was going to have their event. You knew what all this sort of stuff. You could time stuff out.
The new systems and all of that would have been like the new Dreamcast would be released at E3. Like you see all of that.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's more of just a Wild Wild West situation, but it does kind of give game companies the opportunity to do things more so on their own time and, you know, have their own events and stuff like that. So there is good and bad with it, but I kind of miss the big spectacle of it, especially from a monetary standpoint, because those days you would be up for like 17 hours covering all these events, making like 10 videos a day, and it was just like, oh, look at all this money.
Yeah. I'm very surprised, man, with the prevalence of streaming and the gaming industry seemingly still on a boom, especially with the independent streamers. I'm very surprised that an event like that, where community and community events are still on a high. Kind of surprised that E3's gone, man. I used to go through my game spot magazines, looking at the E3 coverage, like, oh man, I gotta get there when I grow up, man. So that was one of those things.
I bought an E3 DVD once. It was for E3 2003, and it was like the whole event. I remember buying it from a GameStop, and it was like I would just sit there and watch it, like, oh, this is gonna be so awesome.
That's funny. Davel Rodriguez says E3 2001 was a movie. Okay, so I don't know if he went or whatever took place there, but
that was PS2.
Okay.
PS2 rolling out and like the games for it, the Metal Gears and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's dope. Is there a new Metal Gear in the works? Any new Metal Gears coming out?
No, they did. They're doing another collection with 4 and one of the games that was on the PSP, because Metal Gear Solid 4 never got a port outside of the PlayStation 3 version of the game. So in order to play it, you still had to have your PS3. But now they're bringing it to modern consoles. There's kind of a whole big thing with that because during Metal Gear Solid 5, which was the last one, Hideo Kojima left, and there was an ugly split up with Konami, but everyone was kind of like, oh, well, Konami is the reason why this is bad. But a lot of the people that were involved with Metal Gear, like, people that did voices and stuff for the games, now they're going back to Konami. So now there's kind of doubt about it. Will we ever see a new one? I hope so. I've literally this past week just beat 1 and 2, and
Nice.
I'm playing through 3 again right now. More than likely we'll see some remasters, though. They actually just remastered 3. It's actually more of a remake. It's a complete graphical overhaul of Metal Gear Solid 3, and that was a lot of fun. So, great franchise. I love that franchise.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Shout out to Will 2K. 2K fan said $5 super chat says we got KFTV talking video games before GTA 6. Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. We like to go off the rails, and this is RGT's specialty, man. Is wheelhouse, man. So shout out to you on that. Last question for you. I've been me, man. I go back my golden era WWF, man. I tap in on WWE Vault on YouTube. I just go in 2:00 in the morning and on the grind. I just throw that on the split screen. But I was hearing some controversy over like WrestleMania, man. Like they're going back to Vegas for a second time. I'm hearing the ticket sales are kind of low right now. What do you think about it, man? It's kind of seems kind of disappointing right now.
It's the new regime is all about money, and they're charging exorbitant prices for these tickets and expecting them to sell, and you can only get so much out of one individual, and when you're charging all these ridiculous prices, they're shutting down watch parties.
I saw that.
Within
I saw that.
like certain radiuses and stuff like that. There's a very large disconnect, and obviously Vince McMahon has a million problems. But at least when he was around, he wanted things to be priced fairly. He wanted, people to be able to come to the shows, whereas the new regime is just like, no, we're just going to charge what we think is fair, and if you like it, great. If you don't, you can watch us on TV. And you can even see it in the product nowadays. It's across 4 different channels. You got to have this streaming service to watch this show. Here's all these ads in the ring on the canvas and stuff like that, and it's like, I think we've gone a little too far with this. I think we need to reel it in a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're going to see case studies on this, man. It seems like TKO's out of touch with it. Now, for me, like I said, I've been falling off since like the Stone Cold Rock days. So I tap in every once in a while. I'll watch a Royal Rumble. I'll watch a WrestleMania just for the tradition, the nostalgia of it. I'll watch a Survivor Series, even though it's nowhere close to what it was in like 90, 91, 92. But it kind of just seems like you said, Vince kind of, scumbagged his way to the bottom. Now they got Triple H out there, and they kind of throwing him in that Vince role. And it's like, it's different, man. Like, I'm watching the vignettes for Survivor Series. Like, Vince was a master promoter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got some of my stuff from Vince McMahon. He was a master promoter, but now they got Triple H out there. It's not hitting the same. Like, the product's just not hitting the same, man. Would you agree or not, man?
No, 100%. I'm the same way. I'll dabble with like a Royal Rumble because I want to see who's coming back.
Yeah.
WrestleMania, same sort of thing. But as far as like watching it weekly and stuff, it's like, no, like the magic. And, obviously, a younger demographic probably thinks the magic is there for them now. Yeah. But it's almost like, well, you don't really know any better. Like,
right.
You weren't there for, welcome to...
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah. Like, that would wake up the house and everyone's going mental.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, we'll see what's happening, man. I'll tap in either way. But, yeah, I was hearing that. I was like, damn. Maybe it's a 2-night thing, and then they're going to Saudi Arabia next year. So, we'll see what happens. Yeah.
That's a whole thing, too.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. But good show, man. Good show. Good to have you back on and talking Knicks, deep diving on the Knicks, and then getting into the gaming, getting into the wrestling, man. We got to do it again, of course, and tap in. So, we have Cavs. We got Bucks. We got Spurs this week. Give me a record prediction this week, man.
I'm gonna go 2-1.
Okay.
I think we'll drop one. I hope it's not to the Cavs. If we gotta lose to the Spurs, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to beat the Cavs. We have to beat the Bucks because my cousin's son is a big Bucks fan.
Nice.
And I like to text him mean things. But Spurs is definitely the wild card for me.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I'll go 2-1 as well. I hope we go 3-0, but Spurs are coming in hot, man. They just beat Detroit, and so they'll be coming in here looking to put on a show at the Garden. And that last one in San Antonio was a little bit tough. They're a good team, so we'll see if the Knicks can meet the challenge. Salute to everybody who tapped in. Salute to the Replay Gang Fanchise channel members. Keep it locked here on KnicksFanTV. As a matter of fact, I'm going to drop the link here to the next show because we got another show. The Knicks will be in Cleveland taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. And coming up, we have the Game of the Week preview. We got KFTV Alex will be up next with our guy Danny Cunningham from Locked On Cavs. So I just put the link in the chat. I'm going to pin it to the top of the chat. Meet us over there right now. We're going to get started in just about 10 minutes. RTT, great show, man. Holla at your boy. And we'll see you guys in just a couple minutes, man. We out of here. Peace.